Barren women don't deserve to stay in this family, he'd said, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Maya stood in the rain outside her own home, watching through the window as her husband packed her belongings into trash bags. Her hands shook as she clutched the divorce papers he'd shoved into her chest 30 minutes earlier. But what her husband didn't know, what no one knew, was that the man who would stop his car in front of her that night wasn't just any stranger. He was someone who would change everything. Phoenix, Arizona, 9:47 p.m. The rain came down in sheets, soaking through Maya Smith's designer dress, the one Derek had bought her for their 5th anniversary. She remembered how he'd smiled when she tried it on, how he'd said she looked perfect. That was before the fertility treatments failed. Before the miscarriages. Before he stopped looking at her altogether. Now, through the window of what used to be her home, she watched him crumple her wedding photos and toss them into the trash. 6 years of marriage, reduced to garbage bags on the lawn. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother-in-law, good riddance. My son deserves a real woman. One who can give him children. Maya's throat tightened. She had nowhere to go. Her parents had died in a car accident 2 years ago. Her friends, Derek's friends, really, had stopped returning her calls the moment word got out about the divorce. Another text came through, this time from Derek, don't bother coming back. I'm having the locks changed tonight. Victoria is moving in next week. At least she can give me what you couldn't. Victoria. His assistant. The blonde 26-year-old who always laughed too loud at his jokes. Maya's hands went numb. Not from the cold, but from the realization that she'd spent 3 years blaming herself for something that was never really about her at all. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments section below. And if this story is hitting close to home, stay with me, because what happens next will restore your faith in humanity. The street was empty except for the rain and the glow of streetlights reflecting off puddles. Maya sat down on the curb, her expensive heels sinking into the mud. She'd walked out with nothing but her phone, her purse, and the clothes on her back. Everything else, her grandmother's jewelry, her college diplomas, the books she'd collected since childhood, all of it was being thrown away like trash. She should call someone. But who? Her college roommate had moved to Seattle. Her cousin hadn't spoken to her since Maya missed her wedding for a fertility treatment cycle. Derek had made sure she was isolated, cutting her off from everyone who might have cared. Headlights cut through the rain. Maya didn't look up. She didn't care. Let whoever it was drive past. Let the whole world drive past. But the car slowed. Then stopped. A black Range Rover, water streaming off its polished surface. The kind of car that cost more than most people made in a year. The window rolled down. Are you all right? The voice was deep, concerned. Maya finally looked up. The man behind the wheel was black, late 30s maybe, with kind eyes that seemed genuinely worried. In the back seat, 2 little girls stared at her with wide eyes. I'm fine, Maya lied, her voice barely audible over the rain. You're sitting in a storm at almost 10 o'clock at night. His tone was gentle but firm. That's not fine. Maya's defenses crumbled. My husband threw me out. Ex-husband. As of, she glanced at the papers in her hand, 37 minutes ago. The man's jaw tightened. He looked at his daughters, then back at Maya. Something shifted in his expression, recognition, maybe. Or memory. I'm Julian, he said. Julian Brooks. These are my daughters, Zoe and Harper. The younger girl, maybe 6 years old, leaned forward. Daddy, she's really cold. I know, baby. Julian's eyes never left Maya's face. Listen, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I can't just leave you here. My house is 10 minutes away. You can dry off, warm up, figure out your next move. Maya should have said no. Every safety video she'd ever watched, every true crime podcast, every warning from her mother screamed that getting into a stranger's car was how bad things happened. But she'd already lived through the bad thing. What was left to lose? Why would you help me? She asked. Julian's expression softened. Because someone helped me once when I had nothing. When my wife left me with 2 babies and a mountain of debt. He paused. I know what it's like to be thrown away. Have you ever been humiliated by someone you loved? Has anyone ever made you feel worthless? Drop your answers in the comments section, you're not alone. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because this story is just getting started, and you won't believe what happens next. Come with me, Julian said, his voice quiet but certain. Maya looked back at the house one last time. Derek was closing the curtains now, shutting her out completely. In the window of the house next door, she saw Mrs. Patterson watching, her face a mixture of pity and relief that it wasn't happening to her. No one was coming to save her. No one except this stranger with kind eyes and two daughters who looked at her like she mattered. Okay, Maya whispered. She stood on shaking legs and walked to the passenger side. The interior of the car was warm, smelling faintly of vanilla and children's soap. Soft music played on the radio, something classical and soothing. Zoe, the older girl who looked about 9, handed her a blanket from the backseat. Here. Dad always keeps emergency stuff in the car. Thank you, Maya managed, wrapping the blanket around her shoulders. As Julian pulled away from the curb, Maya caught one final glimpse of her old life through the rain-streaked window. Derek stood in the doorway now, watching them leave with narrowed eyes. He had no idea who Julian Brooks was. But he was about to find out. What Maya didn't know, what no one in that neighborhood knew, was that the man driving that Range Rover wasn't just a good Samaritan. Julian Brooks had a past that would soon collide with her present in ways that would destroy her ex-husband's entire world. But first, she had to survive the night. Julian's house wasn't what Maya expected. No mansion. No gates. Just a simple 2-story brick home in Temp with a porch light that cut through the rain like a beacon. It's not much, Julian said, pulling into the driveway. But it's home. Maya clutched the blanket tighter. Not much? This man drove a Range Rover that probably cost $80,000 but lived in a neighborhood where houses sold for maybe $300,000. Nothing about this added up. Inside, the house smelled like cinnamon and vanilla. Toys scattered across the living room floor, dolls, building blocks, a half-finished puzzle on the coffee table. This was a home where children actually lived, not just existed. Dad, can she stay in the guest room? Harper asked, already kicking off her light-up sneakers. If she wants to, Julian said, looking at Maya. At least until the storm passes and you figure out your next move. Maya's voice came out small. I don't have a next move. Zoe appeared with a towel, her braids tied back with purple ribbons. It's okay. We didn't either when Mom left. Zoe, Julian's voice held a warning. What? It's true. The girl handed Maya the towel. Mom said we were too much work. That's why she left. But Dad says people who leave are the ones with the problem, not us. Maya took the towel, something cracking open in her chest. Your dad's right. If you've ever felt abandoned by someone who was supposed to love you, hit that like button right now. And drop a comment telling me, are you Team Maya or do you think she should have stayed and fought for her marriage? Your answers might surprise you. Don't forget to subscribe because what Maya discovers next will blow your mind. That night, Maya lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling. Down the hall, she could hear Julian reading his daughters a bedtime story, his voice soft and patient. When was the last time Derek had been patient with her? When was the last time he'd been kind? Her phone buzzed. Against her better judgment, she looked. Derek, I saw you get in that car. Who was he? Already moved on? Guess you're not as broken as you pretended to be. Maya turned off her phone and pressed her palms against her eyes. The next morning, sunlight streamed through unfamiliar windows. For a moment, Maya forgot where she was. Then she heard chaos downstairs, children's voices, something clattering, Julian's deep laugh cutting through the noise. She found them in the kitchen. Zoe was arguing with Harper about whose turn it was to feed the dog. Julian stood at the stove making pancakes with one hand while packing lunches with the other. He looked up when Maya appeared in the doorway. Coffee's fresh. You sleep okay? Better than I have in months, Maya admitted. Can you help? Harper tugged at her sleeve. Daddy always burns the pancakes when he multitasks. Maya found herself at the stove, spatula in hand, while Julian searched for Zoe's library book. This wasn't her family. These weren't her children. But for the first time in 3 years, she felt useful. After the girls left for school, Julian cleared the dishes while Maya dried them. They worked in comfortable silence until he finally spoke. I have to tell you something. Maya's stomach dropped. Here it comes. The catch. The reason he really helped her. Julian pulled out his phone and handed it to her. On the screen was a Forbes article from 8 months ago. Tech Titan falls. Julian Brooks steps down as CEO of Brooks Technologies after $200 million embezzlement scandal rocks company to its core. Maya's hands went numb. You were a CEO? I built Brooks Technologies from nothing. At its peak, we were worth $3 billion. His voice was hollow. Then my CFO, my best friend since college, embezzled $200 million. The board blamed me. Said I should have known. Should have stopped it. But you didn't know, Maya whispered. Doesn't matter. I lost everything. The company, my reputation, my wife. Julian leaned against the counter. Rachel left me the day the scandal broke. Took half of what was left and disappeared. Said she didn't marry me to be poor. But you're not poor. The car, this house. I sold everything I could. Kept enough to give my daughters stability. The Range Rover was paid off before everything went down. This house. He gestured around. It's rented. I'm rebuilding from scratch. Consulting work, freelance contracts. Nothing glamorous. Maya stared at him. Why are you telling me this? Because I've been working with lawyers for 8 months. Gathering evidence. Proving my innocence. Julian met her eyes. The board meeting is in 2 days. If I can prove my CFO acted alone, I get the company back. If I can't, you'll have nothing. I'll have my daughters. And that's enough. He stepped closer. But Maya, I need you to understand something. When I stopped for you last night, it wasn't charity. It was recognition. I saw myself in you. Someone thrown away because they didn't meet impossible expectations. Okay, pause. Did you see that coming? Drop a comment right now. Do you think Julian will get his company back? And more importantly, what happens when Maya's ex-husband finds out who she's staying with? Subscribe and turn on notifications because Chapter 3 is going to get wild. That afternoon, while Julian was at a meeting with his lawyers, Maya cleaned the house. She did laundry, organized toys, started dinner. Not because she had to, but because she needed to feel like she was contributing something. She was folding clothes in the living room when she noticed a magazine wedged between the couch cushions. Business Weekly. She pulled it out, and her blood ran cold. The cover showed Julian in a sharp suit, standing in front of a glass building with Brooks Technologies emblazoned across it. But that wasn't what made her freeze. In the background of the photo, barely visible but unmistakable, was a man in a suit. Derek. Her ex-husband worked for a logistics company that did business with Brooks Technologies. She'd been to company dinners. She'd met some of Julian's competitors. Derek knew who Julian Brooks was. Which meant Derek knew exactly whose car she'd gotten into last night. And if Julian got his company back in 2 days? Maya's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Maya Smith. A woman's voice, professional and cold. Yes. This is Patricia Hartman, Derek's mother. I'm calling to inform you that my husband's company, Hartman Logistics, has been doing business with Brooks Technologies for 3 years. We know where you are. We know who you're with. Maya's heart hammered. What do you want? For you to understand that Julian Brooks is about to lose everything. Again. And when he does, you'll be right back where you started. On the street. With nothing. The line went dead. Maya's world just got a lot more complicated. Her ex-husband's family does business with Julian's company. But what they don't know is that Julian has been planning something for 8 months, something that will destroy everyone who ever underestimated him. And Maya? She's about to become the key to everything. Maya's hands were still shaking when Julian came home that evening. She was stirring soup on the stove, trying to look normal, trying to pretend that Patricia Hartman's phone call hadn't just turned her entire world upside down. You okay? Julian asked, setting his briefcase by the door. You look pale. Maya turned off the stove. Your board meeting is in 2 days. Yeah. And Hartman Logistics does business with your company. Julian went very still. How do you know that? Because Derek's last name is Hartman. His father owns the company. Maya's voice cracked. Derek's mother called me today. She said when you lose everything again, I'll be back on the street where I belong. For a long moment, Julian didn't speak. Then, slowly, he smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who'd been waiting for exactly this moment. Maya, he said quietly. Sit down. There's something else I need to tell you. Hold up. Did you catch that? Derek's family has been doing business with Julian this whole time. Drop a comment right now. Do you think this was coincidence or fate? And smash that like button because what Julian is about to reveal will change everything. Subscribe if you haven't already because you do not want to miss the next 2 minutes. They sat at the kitchen table. Julian pulled out a folder, thick, official-looking, full of documents with tabs and highlighted sections. 3 weeks ago, I hired a private investigator, Julian began. Not to follow you. To investigate Hartman Logistics. I've suspected for months that they've been overcharging us, padding invoices, billing for services never rendered. Maya's breath caught. Why? Because the numbers never added up. But I needed proof before I could act. Julian opened the folder. The board meeting in 2 days? It's not just about clearing my name. It's about exposing everyone who profited from my downfall. He slid a document across the table. Maya's eyes scanned the page, invoice after invoice, highlighted in yellow. Charges for equipment deliveries that never happened. Consulting fees for meetings that were never scheduled. The total at the bottom made her dizzy. $4 million. Derek's father has been stealing from your company, Maya whispered. For 3 years. Since right after the embezzlement scandal broke. They saw an opportunity when I was weak, and they took it. Julian's voice was ice. But here's what they don't know. The board isn't meeting to decide if I get my company back. That decision was made last week. The vote was unanimous. Maya's head snapped up. What? I've been CEO again for 7 days. We just haven't announced it publicly. Julian leaned forward. Tomorrow, I'm terminating the contract with Hartman Logistics. And I'm filing a lawsuit for fraud, breach of contract, and theft. Julian, they'll destroy you. They'll try. But I have something they don't. His eyes locked on hers. I have the truth. And I have evidence. Every fraudulent charge, every fake invoice, every lie, it's all documented. Maya felt like she couldn't breathe. When were you going to tell me? Tonight. After the girls went to bed. I wanted you to hear it from me before it goes public tomorrow. Julian reached across the table, his hand covering hers. Maya, I didn't know Derek was a Hartman when I stopped for you that night. That was pure chance. But the moment I found out, I moved up my timeline. Why? Because he threw you away like trash. And I wanted him to know that the woman he deemed worthless just became his family's worst nightmare. Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Coffee on 5th Street. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Come alone. Derek. Maya showed Julian the message. His jaw tightened. Don't go, he said. I have to. Maya. He needs to see my face when his world falls apart. Something hard and cold settled in Maya's chest. He called me broken. Useless. He made me believe I was nothing. Tomorrow, I want to look him in the eye when he realizes he threw away the only person who actually loved him for him. Julian studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. But you're not going alone. Can we talk about Maya's glow-up right now? From broken and homeless to the key player in taking down her ex-husband's empire? Drop a fire emoji in the comments if you're here for this revenge. And if you think Derek deserves what's coming, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you need to see how this plays out. The next morning, Maya walked into Coffee on 5th Street wearing a simple black dress Julian had bought her the day before. Not expensive, but elegant. Confident. Derek was already there, sitting at a corner table with Victoria beside him. The assistant-turned-fiancé looked uncomfortable, her hand resting on her barely visible baby bump. Maya sat down across from them without being invited. "You wanted to talk," she said. "Talk?" Derek leaned back, that familiar smirk on his face. "I wanted to give you one last chance to do the right thing." "The right thing?" "Sign a waiver. Agree that you left the marriage voluntarily, that you're not entitled to any assets." He slid papers across the table. "Do that, and I'll let you walk away quietly. No lawyers, no mess." Maya looked at the papers but didn't touch them. "And if I don't?" "Then I'll make your life hell. I'll drag you through court. I'll make sure everyone knows you're a gold digger who seduced some washed-up CEO to get revenge." Derek's voice dropped. "My father's company does business with Brooks Technologies. One phone call, and Julian loses his biggest client. You want to be responsible for that?" Victoria shifted uncomfortably. "Derek, maybe we should—" "Quiet," Derek snapped at her. Then, to Maya, "So what's it going to be?" Maya took a slow breath. Then she smiled. It was the smile Julian had taught her, the one that said she knew something he didn't. "Your father doesn't do business with Brooks Technologies anymore," she said quietly. "As of 8 a.m. this morning, the contract was terminated." Derek's face went white. "What?" The door opened. Julian walked in, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Derek made in a month. Behind him were two men Maya recognized from TV, lawyers from one of Phoenix's most prestigious firms. "Julian Brooks," Derek stammered, standing up. There must be some mistake. My father said." "Your father has been stealing from my company for 3 years. $4 million in fraudulent charges." Julian's voice was calm, deadly. "These gentlemen are here to serve him, and you, with a lawsuit. Fraud, conspiracy, and theft." Victoria's hand flew to her mouth. Derek grabbed the edge of the table like he might fall. "You can't prove." "I can prove everything." Julian pulled out his phone, showing Derek a screen full of documents. Every fake invoice. Every phantom delivery. Every lie. "It's all here." Derek's eyes found Maya. "You did this. You planned this." "No," Maya said, standing. "I didn't plan anything. I just stopped letting people like you define my worth." Julian stepped beside Maya, his hand finding hers. "But here's the part you're really going to love, Derek. You remember that prenup you made Maya sign? The one that said she gets nothing because she couldn't have children." "What about it?" "Arizona law states that if adultery can be proven to have occurred before the divorce filing, the prenup is void." Julian's smile was sharp. "My investigators found texts between you and Victoria dating back 10 months. Hotel receipts. Credit card statements. You were cheating on Maya long before you filed for divorce." Victoria made a small sound. Derek's face turned purple. "Which means," Julian continued, "Maya is entitled to half of everything. The house, the cars, your investment portfolio, your trust fund. All of it." Derek grabbed Maya's arm. "You can't do this." "I'll touch her again," Julian said, his voice dropping to something dangerous, "and I'll add assault to the list of charges." Derek let go like he'd been burned. Maya looked at the man who'd once made her feel worthless. The man who'd thrown her out in a storm and called her broken. "You threw me away because I couldn't give you children," she said quietly. "But the truth is, Derek, I was never the broken one. You were." She turned and walked out of the coffee shop, Julian beside her. Behind them, she could hear Derek's voice rising, panicked, desperate. But Maya didn't look back. Derek's world just collapsed in real time. But this is only the beginning. Because what Maya doesn't know yet is that Julian's been hiding one more secret, something about the night they met that will change everything she thought she knew about fate, coincidence, and second chances. 6 months later, Maya stood in the lobby of Brooks Technologies, watching the morning sun stream through floor-to-ceiling windows. The building hummed with energy, employees rushing to meetings, phones ringing, the smell of expensive coffee filling the air. This was power. Real power. Not the kind Derek had wielded through cruelty, but the kind built on integrity and second chances. "Ready?" Julian appeared at her side, Zoe and Harper flanking him like bodyguards in their Sunday dresses. Maya smiled. Ready. Today was the official launch of the New Beginnings Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to helping divorced individuals and single parents rebuild their lives. Maya would run operations. Julian would handle funding. And together, they'd create something that mattered. But first, they had one final piece of business to handle. Before we get into this ending, I need to know, are you Team Maya all the way? Drop a comment telling me what you think she should do when her ex shows up begging. And if this story has touched your heart, hit that subscribe button because we're about to bring this full circle in a way you'll never see coming. The divorce settlement had been finalized 3 weeks ago. Maya walked away with $2.3 million, half of Derek's trust fund, half the equity in the house, half of everything he'd told her she didn't deserve. But the money wasn't what healed her. It was the family she'd found in Julian's living room, folding laundry and helping with homework. It was Zoe calling her Mayam when she thought no one was listening. It was Harper holding her hand on the way to school. It was Julian, looking at her like she was everything he'd been searching for. They hadn't made anything official yet. Hadn't put labels on whatever was growing between them. But every night, after the girls went to bed, they'd sit on the porch and talk about dreams, about second chances, about building something beautiful from broken pieces. Miss Smith. A security guard approached. There's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent. Maya's stomach tightened. Who? Derek Hartman. Julian's hand found her elbow. You don't have to see him. I know. Maya straightened her shoulders. But I want to. Derek waited in a small conference room, and Maya barely recognized him. His expensive suit hung loose on his frame. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His hands shook as he stood when she entered. Julian stayed by the door, arms crossed. A silent promise, I'm here if you need me. Maya, Derek's voice cracked. Thank you for seeing me. She didn't sit. Just stood there, waiting. I came to apologize, Derek continued. For everything. The way I treated you, the things I said, throwing you out like you meant nothing. He swallowed hard. You didn't deserve any of it. No, Maya said quietly. I didn't. My father's company is bankrupt. The lawsuit, the legal fees, the fraud charges, it destroyed everything. Derek's hands clenched. Victoria left me last week. Said she didn't sign up for this. Took the baby and moved back to California. Maya felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity. Just emptiness where he used to live in her heart. I lost everything, Derek whispered. And I finally understand what I did to you. Why are you here, Derek? Because I'm asking, begging, for you to drop the lawsuit against my father. He's 73 years old. He'll die in prison if this goes through. Derek's eyes filled with tears. Please, Maya. I know I don't deserve mercy, but he's still my father. Maya looked at this man who'd once held all the power. Who'd made her feel worthless. Who'd thrown her into a storm and never looked back. Now he was the one begging. She could destroy him. One word, and his father would spend his final years behind bars. The Hartman name would be dirt. Derek would have nothing. It would be justice. But as Maya looked at Julian standing by the door, at the life she'd built from ashes, she realized something. Revenge was empty. Bitterness was a cage. And she'd already won. I'll talk to Julian about reducing the charges, Maya said finally. Not for you. For your father. Because unlike you, I don't throw away people when they're down. Derek's breath came out in a sob. Thank you. Thank you, But Derek. Maya's voice went cold. If you ever contact me again, if you ever come near me or this family, I will make sure you regret it. Do you understand? He nodded, unable to speak. Good. Now get out. After Derek left, Maya stood at the window, watching the Phoenix skyline. Julian came up behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist. You didn't have to do that, he said softly. I know. But holding on to anger would have made me just like him. Maya turned in his arms. Besides, I have better things to focus on. Like a foundation to launch. And a family to love. About that family thing. Julian's voice held something new. Nervous. Hopeful. Maya's heart skipped. What about it? He pulled a small box from his pocket. The night I found you in that storm, Julian said, his hands shaking slightly, it wasn't random. I'd just come from my lawyer's office. The final board meeting was scheduled. I was about to get my life back. And all I could think was, what's the point? I had money, power, a company. But I was empty. Maya's eyes filled. Julian. Then I saw you sitting there in the rain, and something in my chest just knew. This was why I'd lost everything. So I could find you. So I could understand what it meant to be thrown away. So when I saw you, I'd recognize you. He opened the box. Inside was a simple diamond ring, elegant and perfect. Maya Smith, you're not broken. You never were. You're the strongest, bravest, most beautiful person I've ever known. Julian's voice cracked. And I don't want to spend another day without you being officially part of this family. Will you marry me? Maya couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. 6 months ago, she'd been sitting in a storm with nothing. Now she had everything. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, yes. Julian slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. Behind them, the conference room door burst open. Zoe and Harper came running in, squealing. Did she say yes? Harper jumped up and down. She said yes. Zoe grabbed Maya around the waist. Maya laughed through tears, surrounded by the family she'd chosen and who'd chosen her back. Later that night, after the foundation launch party, after the champagne and speeches and tears, Maya found an old photo on Julian's desk. It showed him with his daughters outside a coffee shop. The same coffee shop where Derek had tried to humiliate her. Julian. Maya held up the photo. When was this taken? He came over, looking at the picture. 3 weeks before I found you. We were getting hot chocolate after Zoe's soccer game. Maya's breath caught. The coffee shop on 5th Street. Yeah. Why? Because Derek had texted her to meet him there. The same place Julian had been with his daughters weeks before. The same place where everything had come full circle. It wasn't coincidence. It was fate making sure their paths would cross. Making sure that when Maya needed saving, Julian would be exactly where he needed to be. Nothing, Maya said, wrapping her arms around him. Just realizing that some things are meant to be. 1 year later, Maya stood at the New Beginnings Foundation, meeting with a woman who'd just been divorced. The woman sat with her head down, her hands shaking, her voice breaking as she said, I have nothing. I'm worthless. Maya sat beside her and took her hands. No, she said gently. You're not worthless. You're just at the beginning of something new. And I'm going to help you find it. Because Maya knew the truth now, worth wasn't something someone else gave you. It was something you discovered when you stopped letting other people define you. She'd been thrown away in a storm. But she'd been found by a man who saw her value when she couldn't see it herself. And together, they'd built something beautiful. If this story moved you, if Maya's journey reminded you that second chances are real, drop a comment telling me what moment hit you hardest. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they're not broken, they are just beginning. And subscribe because every week we bring you stories of hope, redemption, and proof that your darkest moment might be right before your greatest breakthrough. You are not worthless. You are not broken. You're just getting started. See you in the next story.